Imagine for a moment, someone looks you in the eye, says something cruel, something meant to cut you down, and instead of feeling your heart race or your fist clench, you smile, you breathe, and you walk away untouched. No anger, no reaction, nothing they said penetrates your peace. Now let me ask you this. What would your life look like if no one could get under your skin? If no insult, no betrayal, no rude comment, no toxic behavior could ever shake your calm? Think about it. How many hours of your life have been wasted replaying arguments in your head, carrying anger that eats away at you, letting people who don't even matter steal your energy? Here's the truth. Most people never realize anger is not power. Calm is power. Silence is power. The person who cannot be provoked is the person who truly controls the room. You see, anyone can yell back. Anyone can argue. Anyone can get emotional. But the secret to becoming unshakable, the secret to never being bothered by anyone, is learning to master yourself. Tonight, I want to take you into that secret. Because once you understand it, you'll realize that peace is not something the world gives you. It's something you choose, moment by moment, no matter what comes at you. When you think about the times you've gotten angry, think about what really happened. Someone said something, someone did something, and in that instant, you felt a surge of heat inside of you. Your heart beat faster. Your voice wanted to rise. Your mind screamed, I need to respond. I need to defend myself. But here's the truth. That surge, that emotion, is not the enemy. The real problem is when you allow that surge to take control of you. Because the moment you lose control, you've handed your power over to someone else. Let me ask you this. How many times in your life have you regretted what you said when you were angry? Think about it. Words spoken in anger almost always carry regret. So we slam doors, we raise our voice, we throw away relationships in a matter of seconds because of a reaction we didn't control. And later, when the fire cools down, we look back and think, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. Emotional self-control is not about denying that you feel anger. It's about refusing to let that anger drive the car. You can feel the surge and still choose not to let it define your actions. The people who appear strongest in life are not the ones who shout the loudest. They are the ones who can stand in the middle of chaos and remain calm. Picture a storm. The wind is tearing through the trees. Rain is pounding down. Lightning is crashing. But at the center of that storm, there is calm. That's where your power lies, in the eye of the storm. Mastering emotional self-control means learning how to find that calm center, no matter what storm is raging around you. Now, this doesn't mean you never feel angry. You are human. Emotions will come. Someone will disrespect you. Someone will betray you. Someone will try to belittle you. But the key is this. Emotions are signals, not commands. Anger can signal that something is wrong, that something feels unjust. But it doesn't command you to lose yourself. You always get to decide what happens next. Here's a practical truth. Between what happens to you and how you react, there's a tiny space. In that space lies your freedom. Most people never recognize it. Something happens and they react instantly. They snap back, they yell, they curse, they slam. But the person who learns to use that space, to pause, to breathe, to choose a different response, that person is untouchable. You cannot bother someone who has mastered the pause. You cannot control someone who has learned to control themselves. Think of the last time someone provoked you. Maybe it was at work when a coworker dismissed your idea. Maybe it was at home when a family member said something unfair. Maybe it was on the road when someone cut you off. In those moments, you had a choice. Did you feed the fire, or did you hold on to your peace? Most of the time, we feed the fire because we feel like reacting proves our strength. But let me tell you, reacting does not make you strong. It makes you predictable. Anyone can push a button and get a reaction. That means they own you. The person who can stay calm in the face of provocation, that's the person who is truly strong. There's a reason why leaders, warriors, and negotiators have always been trained in the art of self-control. They know that once you let emotions lead, you are no longer thinking clearly. You say things you don't mean. You miss opportunities. You destroy bridges you might need later. The strongest people in history were not the ones who shouted the loudest, but the ones who could sit quietly, listen, and then strike with calm precision when the time was right. But let's be real, this is not easy. It takes practice. You don't just wake up one day and suddenly stop getting angry. No, you train it like a muscle. You train it by catching yourself in the small moments. The next time someone says something irritating, before you snap back, breathe. Literally take one slow breath. Give yourself that pause. The breath becomes the doorway to control. The more you do this, the more your brain learns a new pattern. Instead of reacting instantly, you respond thoughtfully. Over time, you start to notice that things which once made you explode no longer have the same effect. You become harder to provoke. And when you start living this way, people notice. They notice that you don't get pulled into drama. They notice that no matter what is said, you don't lose yourself. And here's the interesting part. People start respecting you more because deep down, everyone knows how hard it is to stay calm. When you master that, it sets you apart. You become someone others look to for stability. Now, I want you to imagine your life a year from now. If you practice this every day, imagine a version of yourself who no longer explodes at every insult, who no longer wastes hours of mental energy replaying arguments in your head, who no longer allows others to dictate your emotional state. Imagine walking into a room, and no matter what anyone says, you remain centered. That's not weakness. That's the highest level of strength. Because strength is not about how loud you can roar. It's about how unshakable you can remain when others try to pull you down. The truth is, life will always test you. People will always say things. Circumstances will always trigger emotions. But the secret to never being bothered by anyone begins here with mastering yourself. You can't control what others do, but you can control what you give your energy to. And when you can look someone in the eye, smile, and walk away without anger, you've already won. Think about the last time someone insulted you, ignored you, or treated you unfairly. What was your first instinct? For most of us, it's to take it personally. We tell ourselves, they don't respect me. They don't value me. They think I'm not enough. And suddenly we carry their behavior like it's a reflection of who we are. But here's the reality. The way people treat you has far more to do with who they are than with who you are. When someone lashes out at you, it's usually because of the storm inside of them. People project their insecurities, their pain, and their frustrations onto others. A person who constantly criticizes is often a person who is deeply dissatisfied with themselves. A person who belittles others may be struggling with feelings of inadequacy. A person who lies, gossips, or spreads negativity is often running from their own truth. Yet, most of us fall into the trap of thinking their behavior defines us. It doesn't. It defines them. Imagine walking through a market and someone hands you a rotten apple. You don't take that apple and assume you're rotten. You recognize that the apple came from their basket, not yours. The same is true with people's words and actions. When they give you bitterness, cruelty, or disrespect, that came from their basket, from their life experiences, from their pain, not from you. Once you start seeing it that way, you free yourself from the weight of their behavior. Let's take an example. You're at work, and a colleague makes a sharp comment about your idea in front of everyone. Your instinct might be to feel embarrassed, to think, I must have said something stupid. But pause for a moment. Could it be that their reaction was fueled by jealousy or by their own need to feel important? Maybe they're insecure about their role, and the only way they know how to elevate themselves is by cutting others down. When you realize this, suddenly their comment doesn't sting as much because you understand it wasn't truly about you. This shift in perspective is life-changing. Instead of constantly absorbing people's negativity, you begin to observe it. You start asking yourself, what does this say about them? Instead of what does this say about me? That one question can protect your peace in ways you cannot imagine. Now, some people might argue, but what if there's truth in what they're saying? That's fair. If someone offers constructive criticism, you should listen and grow. But that's different from personal attacks. The problem is we often confuse the two. Not everything someone says is truth. Sometimes it's just projection. The real wisdom is learning to separate what's useful from what's toxic. Take the lesson if it helps you, but leave the poison behind. Here's another scenario. Maybe you've had a friend who suddenly pulled away from you, stopped answering your calls, or acted distant. And immediately you thought, what did I do wrong? You replayed every conversation, every text, trying to find the mistake. But the reality is, sometimes people withdraw because of what they're going through internally. Maybe they're struggling with depression. Maybe they feel ashamed of something in their life. Maybe they just don't have the capacity to show up right now. It's not about you. It's about them. And yet we punish ourselves by believing it must be personal. Once you start seeing people through this lens, you become harder to offend. You realize that the person yelling at you in traffic is probably carrying stress from their own life. The rude customer in the store may be battling something you'll never see. The coworker who always criticizes may be masking their own fear of failure. And suddenly, instead of anger, you feel compassion, or at the very least, detachment. You stop giving away your peace to people who are fighting their own invisible battles. There's a line that says, what people say about you is none of your business. Think about that for a moment. The gossip, the criticism, the whispers, none of it changes who you are. You are not defined by their words. You are defined by your character, your choices, and your truth. If you live by other people's opinions, you'll constantly be pulled in every direction. But if you live by your own principles, the noise around you becomes just that, noise. This doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior. It doesn't mean you allow people to mistreat you. Boundaries are still important. But it does mean you stop internalizing their behavior as a reflection of your worth. You can say, I will not tolerate this, without carrying anger in your heart. You can walk away knowing their actions are a mirror of their own struggles, not your value. Here's something powerful to remember. People are always telling you who they are. Pay attention. The way someone treats others, the words they choose, the way they carry themselves, it's all information about them. If someone is consistently negative, it tells you about the storm inside them. If someone is consistently kind, it reflects the peace they've cultivated. Stop taking it personally. Start seeing it as information. And let's be honest, haven't you had moments where you weren't at your best? Times when you snapped at someone, not because of them, but because you were tired, stressed, or carrying your own burdens. If you can admit that about yourself, then you can extend that same understanding toward others. Their behavior is often about their state of mind, their pain, their history. It's not about you. The moment you embrace this truth, you free yourself. You stop carrying unnecessary anger. You stop wasting energy trying to prove your worth to people who can't see it. You stop chasing validation from those who are too blinded by their own struggles. And most importantly, you stop being bothered because you realize their behavior is their story, not yours. Imagine living this way every day. Someone insults you, and instead of feeling crushed, you think that's about them. Someone rejects you, and instead of spiraling, you think they're in a place where they can't receive me. Someone gossips about you. And instead of losing sleep, you think their words reveal their character, not mine. That mindset makes you untouchable. That mindset is freedom. There comes a point in life when you realize not every argument deserves your presence, not every insult deserves your response, and not every battle is worth your energy. Yet, most people spend their days fighting small, meaningless wars. Someone posts something online, and they argue back. A colleague makes a petty remark, and they spend the whole day plotting a comeback. A family member criticizes them, and they carry that weight for weeks. But here's the truth. Your energy is your most valuable currency, and every time you give it to a pointless fight, you rob yourself of peace, progress, and purpose. And think about it. Have you ever walked away from an argument feeling truly fulfilled? Most of the time, you walk away drained. Even if you won, you lost hours of calm, hours of focus, hours of joy. That's the trap. Battles that don't matter steal your energy long after the moment has passed. They replay in your head. They poison your thoughts. They distract you from the bigger things you should be pursuing. And the harsh reality is, Some people thrive on dragging others into these battles because it feeds their ego, their need for attention, or their hunger for control. The greatest act of strength you can show is refusing to give them what they want. Detachment is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that not every voice deserves a reply, and not every challenge deserves your presence. Picture a lion walking through the savannah. Do you think it stops to bark back at every dog that howls at it? No, it knows who it is. It doesn't waste energy proving its power to creatures that cannot even reach its level. That's what true detachment looks like. You know your values so deeply that you don't lower yourself to every petty fight. Let me give you a simple example. Someone cuts you off in traffic, honks, maybe even yells at you. Now, you have two options. You can roll down your window, scream back, chase them, and let that one moment ruin your whole day. Or you can breathe, keep driving, and move on with your peace intact. Which one makes you stronger? Which one protects your energy? It's always the second. Because here's the secret. When you stop reacting to every little thing, you rise above it. You keep your focus on what truly matters instead of being dragged down into the mud. This principle doesn't just apply to strangers. It applies to family, friends, coworkers, people close to you who sometimes try to pull you into unnecessary drama. Maybe you've had a family member who loves to provoke arguments at every gathering. You know their pattern. They make comments just to stir up emotions. And every time you feel tempted to fire back. But imagine if instead you responded with silence or with a calm smile and then turned your attention elsewhere. What happens? The fire they tried to start burns out because you refuse to add fuel. The same is true in the workplace. Some people thrive on conflict because it makes them feel significant. If they can get you upset, they've won. But when you remain detached, when you don't bite the bait, they lose their power over you. In fact, detachment often leaves them frustrated because nothing is more disarming than someone who refuses to be drawn into nonsense. It confuses people who are used to control through provocation. Detachment also frees your mind. You start to realize how much of your energy is wasted on things that don't matter in the long run. A rude comment on social media, gone tomorrow, a temporary disagreement, forgotten in a week. But your mental clarity, your peace of mind, your focus, those are priceless. Every time you detach from the trivial, you invest in the meaningful. You protect your energy for the battles that actually shape your life, your growth, your purpose, your dreams. But let's be clear, detachment doesn't mean you become cold or indifferent. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you choose your battles wisely. You stand firm when something truly matters, your dignity, your values, your loved ones, your principles, but you don't waste energy on proving yourself to people who will never see your worth, or on defending yourself against accusations that don't deserve your attention. There's a saying, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. That's what happens when you engage in every fight. You lower yourself into mud that was never meant for you. Detachment is choosing to stay clean, to walk away, to rise above. And here's the irony. Walking away often speaks louder than any words you could have said. Silence can be the most powerful response. Now imagine how your life would feel if you stopped fighting battles that don't matter. Think about how much calmer your days would be. How much more energy you'd have for your goals. How much mental space you'd reclaim for things that actually move your life forward. You'd no longer be consumed with proving yourself to people who don't matter, or defending yourself against words that don't define you. You'd be free. This freedom is what detachment offers. It's the art of protecting your energy, of not being dragged into every storm, of choosing peace over pettiness. When you master this, people notice. They notice you're not easily rattled. They notice you don't get caught up in gossip, drama, or trivial arguments. And they respect you more for it. Because deep down, everyone admires the person who can walk away, who doesn't need to fight every battle, who holds themselves with quiet strength. At the end of the day, life is short. Your energy is precious. And if you spend it fighting meaningless wars, you'll have nothing left for the battles that truly define you. Detachment is not about giving up. It's about rising up. It's about saying, I choose peace. I choose focus. I choose not to let this steal my energy. That's the kind of mindset that makes you unstoppable, unshakable, and free. Criticism is something every single one of us will face. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, there will always be people with opinions, judgments, and words that sting. And here's the thing, most people allow criticism to break them. They hear one negative comment and suddenly their confidence is shaken. They replay it over and over, questioning their worth, questioning their abilities. But the people who rise above, the ones who achieve greatness, are not the ones who avoid criticism. They are the ones who learn to reframe it, to take it as fuel, not fire. Think about this. If you let every critical word burn you, you'll spend your life constantly putting out flames. You'll be exhausted, drained, and afraid to move forward. But if you learn to take that same criticism and convert it into fuel, suddenly the very thing meant to stop you becomes the thing that pushes you further. That's the power of perspective. The same words can either destroy you or drive you, and the choice is always yours. Here's an example. Imagine someone tells you, "You'll never make it, you're not good enough." Now you could take those words and let them sit in your heart like poison, paralyzing you with self-doubt. Or you could let those words light a fire inside you. You could think, "Thank you for the fuel. Thank you for giving me one more reason to prove not to you, but to myself that I can." Suddenly their attempt to weaken you becomes the very spark that strengthens you. That's reframing. But not all criticism is bad. Sometimes it carries truth. Sometimes hidden within the sting, there is a lesson. The danger is when we allow our ego to block us from hearing it. People who grow, people who excel, are those who can listen to criticism without getting defensive. They don't take it as an attack. They take it as information. They ask themselves, is there something here I can use? Is there a way I can get better? And if the answer is yes, they use it as fuel for growth. The challenge is learning to separate constructive criticism from destructive criticism. Constructive criticism is given with the intention to help, even if it's not delivered perfectly. Destructive criticism is meant to tear you down, to discourage you, to make you doubt yourself. Most of the criticism you'll face in life falls into the destructive category because people project their insecurities onto you. But here's the beauty. You don't have to carry it. You can choose to let it slide off you like water off glass. And when you do, you stay unbothered. Think about the great innovators, leaders, and creators in history. Every single one of them was criticized. Every one of them was told they couldn't do it. Some were mocked, rejected, even ridiculed, but they kept going. Why? Because they didn't allow criticism to stop them. They either ignored it or they used it as fuel. Imagine if every time someone told them no, they quit. We would have no breakthroughs, no inventions, no progress. The truth is, criticism is often a sign that you are doing something that matters. People don't criticize those who stay silent and invisible. They criticize the ones who stand out, who dare to rise, who dare to challenge the norm. Here's another perspective. When people criticize you, they're often revealing more about themselves than about you. A person who criticizes your ambition may be someone who gave up on their own. A person who criticizes your confidence may be struggling with insecurity. A person who criticizes your choices may be envious of the courage it takes to live them. When you understand this, criticism loses its power to hurt you. You realize their words are more about their story than yours. Now let's talk about the inner critic. Sometimes the loudest criticism doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. That voice in your head that says, you're not good enough, you'll fail, you're wasting your time. That voice is often shaped by the things we've absorbed from others. Parents, teachers, peers, society. But just like external criticism, you have a choice. You can let that inner critic paralyze you, or you can turn it into fuel. You can say, if my mind is going to speak to me, I will train it to push me, not stop me. Reframe the inner voice from being an enemy to being a motivator. Reframing criticism is about owning your narrative. When someone throws negativity your way, you decide the meaning. You decide whether it's a dagger that wounds you or a spark that drives you. And once you start living this way, something shifts inside of you. You stop being so sensitive to what others say. You stop being controlled by external voices. You begin to stand tall, knowing that no matter what is said, you hold the power to turn it into something that benefits you. Imagine how freeing that would be. Imagine hearing someone say, "You can't do it." And instead of feeling crushed, you smile and think, "Watch me." Imagine someone pointing out your flaws, and instead of shrinking, you take it as feedback to improve. Imagine walking through life, not afraid of criticism, but empowered by it. That is the secret to becoming unshakable. Because here's the ultimate truth. If you want to live a life of impact, you cannot avoid criticism. It comes with the territory of growth. But if you can reframe it, if you can see it as fuel instead of fire, you not only protect your peace, you accelerate your progress. You turn obstacles into stepping stones. You turn negativity into momentum. And you become someone who cannot be stopped by the words of others. Peace is not something the world will hand to you. If you're waiting for the world to calm down, for people to stop provoking you, for circumstances to finally line up so you can breathe, you'll be waiting forever. The world is noisy. People will always have opinions. Circumstances will always shift. Chaos is the natural state of things. But peace, that's not something you stumble upon by accident. Peace is a discipline. It is something you cultivate within yourself, a choice you make every single day, no matter what is happening outside of you. Think about the times in your life when everything around you seemed to be falling apart. Maybe it was financial stress. Maybe it was conflict in your relationships. Maybe it was pressure at work. The outside world was pulling you in every direction, demanding your attention, testing your patience. Yet in those moments, you had two options: to let the chaos define you, or to anchor yourself in peace. Most people choose the first option without even realizing it. They let the storm outside become a storm inside. But the secret to never being bothered, never being shaken, lies in choosing differently. Inner peace is about building a place inside yourself that no one can touch. A sanctuary where people's words can't penetrate, where circumstances can't dictate your emotions, where negativity cannot plant roots. Imagine living in that kind of state. Someone insults you and you don't carry it. Plans change and you don't collapse. The world spins out of control and you remain grounded. That's what it means to choose peace over chaos. But let's be clear. This does not happen automatically. It requires practice. It requires self-awareness. It requires you to train your mind to focus on what you can control instead of obsessing over what you can't. You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control your response. You can't control every circumstance, but you can control your attitude toward it. And that shift in focus is where peace begins. For many, the biggest source of chaos is other people. Their drama, their negativity, their opinions. You can't stop people from being who they are, but you can choose how much access you give them to your inner world. Just because someone is speaking doesn't mean you have to listen. Just because someone is acting out doesn't mean you have to engage. Boundaries are a form of peacekeeping. Sometimes choosing inner peace means limiting how much time you spend around people who constantly disturb it. But peace isn't only about creating distance. It's also about creating habits that ground you. When you start your day with silence, with gratitude, with intentional focus, you armor yourself against the noise of the world. Meditation, journaling, prayer, reflection. These aren't just spiritual or wellness practices. They're weapons that guard your inner world. They remind you that no matter how loud things get outside, you can always return to the stillness within. Here's something powerful to consider. Chaos thrives on reaction. The more you react, the more you feed it. But peace thrives on stillness. When you choose not to react, not to escalate, not to be pulled into every disturbance, you weaken chaos's hold on you. That's why sometimes the strongest thing you can do is nothing. Not every insult needs a reply. Not every problem needs panic. Sometimes the greatest power is found in a calm, steady presence. Think about the people you admire most. The ones who seem unshakable. Why do they stand out? It's because they carry peace even in pressure. They're the ones who, when things go wrong, don't fall apart. They pause. They breathe. They think clearly. And because of that, they make better decisions. Peace is not just about feeling good. It's about clarity, about wisdom, about positioning yourself to act with strength instead of weakness. And let's not forget, peace is contagious. When you walk into a room with calm energy, it shifts the atmosphere. People feel it. They respond to it. Just as chaos spreads, so does peace. You become a stabilizing force in environments where others are easily rattled. That's why choosing inner peace isn't just for you. It impacts everyone around you. Now, choosing peace doesn't mean you ignore problems. It doesn't mean you pretend everything is fine when it isn't. It means you face reality without letting it destroy your inner stability. You deal with problems from a place of calm instead of panic. You confront issues with clarity instead of rage. That's the difference. When the storm is raging, peace gives you the ability to navigate instead of sink. Ask yourself this: how much of your life have you lost to chaos? How many nights of sleep were stolen because you couldn't stop replaying someone's words? How many days were ruined because of things outside your control? How much energy have you wasted being pulled into battles that didn't matter? Now imagine reclaiming all of that energy by choosing peace instead. Imagine how light your life would feel if you stopped carrying every burden, every insult, every storm inside you. That's the gift of inner peace. It gives you your life back. And here's the final truth. Chaos will always exist. You can't eliminate it, but you don't have to be ruled by it. The real victory is not in controlling the world, it's in controlling yourself. The world can rage, people can provoke, situations can shift, but if you carry peace inside you, nothing can shake you. You become untouchable, unbothered, unmovable. That is strength. That is freedom. That is the secret to never being angry, never being rattled, never being broken by the noise around you. At the end of the day, life will always give you reasons to react, to lose yourself, to be pulled into battles that don't matter. People will provoke you, situations will test you, and chaos will try to rob you of your calm. But your greatest power is not in controlling the outside world. It's in mastering the world within. When you learn to detach, to understand that people's behavior is about them and not you, when you choose peace instead of chaos, when you reframe criticism as fuel instead of fire, and when you hold yourself with emotional self-control, you step into a place where nothing and no one can shake you. True strength is not loud. It's not in shouting, fighting, or proving yourself. True strength is quiet. It's the unshakable calm of someone who refuses to be broken by circumstances. It's the person who stands tall when the world tries to knock them down. It's the one who walks away from unnecessary battles because they know their energy is too valuable to waste. So choose peace. Guard your mind. Protect your energy. Don't let the chaos of others become the chaos within you. When you live this way, you don't just survive, you rise. You don't just endure, you thrive. And most importantly, you don't just find peace, you become peace. And when you become peace, you carry a power that no one can take away. Remember this, the storm may rage outside, but it will never touch you if you have learned to master the calm within. That is your power. That is your freedom. And that is the life you deserve to live.